Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Do want to go ahead and wrap. So we do this every Friday during college football season. By the way, this will be our last show until Sunday afternoon. We will do a Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon show, maybe around this time, recapping week one. Then we'll be back onto the Tuesday schedule, on and on. Okay. But I do want to go ahead and wrap, and I'll tell you why. It is because as college football ramps up, okay, as college football ramps up, what that also means is these big college football Saturdays become big recruiting weekends in college basketball. And basically every weekend from now until the middle of November, all of your favorite schools are going to be hosting big-time recruits essentially around these big-time college football games on campus. So what I want to go ahead and do is go ahead and get to some of the big recruiting stories heading into the weekend. Should mention, by the way, if you are going to any games, if you need any last-minute tickets, SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres. SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres gets you $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres. But like I said, college hoops with college football underway, it means that these campus visits become big visit weekends for college basketball. Let's go ahead and get to some of the big campus visits that will go on this weekend, because I do think that this is, it's kind of primetime recruiting if you're a college hoops fan. By the way, again, producer Matt is not here, so the graphics are not going to be what they usually are. But quick shout out to producer Matt, who is in Waco, Texas for the Auburn-Baylor game on Friday night. All right, very quickly, first big piece of recruiting news. This one broke just within the last couple days, okay? So Caleb Holt is one of the top 5 players in high school basketball. I love Caleb Holt. He's one of my favorite players to watch. I'll be totally transparent, because the bottom line is, at the end of the day, he is just a dude that makes everybody around him better, okay? About 6'4", 6'5" guard, played for that Team USA team that won a gold medal. He was one of the younger players, along with Tyron Stokes, Brandon McCoy, one of the younger guys on that roster. And I love the way that he kind of melded his game into being able to play with other guys that are talented, right? So he wasn't the star. He wasn't the starter. He came off the bench, was kind of a third guard at times, was a scorer, was a shooter, was a bucket getter. I thought was a very productive summer for him. Coming out of the summer, by the way, I've kind of compared his game, I really think, to Cason Wallace. He kind of reminds me a lot of Cason Wallace, can kind of play on the ball, off the ball, whatever. Coming out of the summer, there were 3 schools that felt like they were in control. Auburn and Alabama. He's he plays in the Atlanta area, both an easy drive for him. And then Kentucky kind of made a push. If you remember, Mark Pope was an on-court coach for Team USA with Caleb Holt. And Caleb Holt kind of was raving about Mark Pope coming out of that experience. Well, I bring it up because Caleb Holt, a little bit of a surprise over the last couple days, announced that he will take a visit this coming weekend to John Calipari and the Arkansas Razorbacks. By the way, always make sure you're following our Torres on the Hogs account for late breaking news on Arkansas. Torres on the Hogs. They've done a great job covering this recruitment. Where does Arkansas fit in this recruitment? I'll be honest, it feels a little early, but listen, if you're getting a visit, and by the way, I should mention with Caleb Holt, also Kansas very much in the mix as well. He's an Adidas kid, so you would think that they'll be in play. Bring it up to very simply say that with Caleb Holt, I think those 5 are going to be the 5. I don't think this is going to be, take 15 different visits. Auburn, Alabama already have visits on the books. So does Kentucky, Kansas, etc. But going to Arkansas, listen, I just don't think you can count out Coach Cal. And the thing that stands out to me about Arkansas, they're going to very clearly need bodies in the backcourt and on the wings next year, right? Carter Knox, we assume, is going to go pro after this year. Darius Acuff, we assume, is going to be a one-and-done guy. DJ Wagner, after 3 years, might just decide, college basketball is enough for me. I've done enough. And so I just bring it up. Malik Thomas might be a one-and-done. So I bring it up because Arkansas might need to completely replace its backcourt. You talk about rev share and the money that's available. I think Arkansas is going to have more than most for basketball, and more could be available just knowing, again, Carter Knox might not be back. DJ Wagner might not be back. Darius Acuff almost certainly won't be back. So I would just kind of keep an eye on Arkansas. Again, Caleb Holt is going to visit Kentucky, Auburn, and Alabama in the coming days. Just something to pay attention to. Let's keep it going because another elite guard, by the way, that has links to Arkansas, he is going to be on the road this weekend. A football team that I love that everybody else hates is the Indiana Hoosiers. They're hosting Old Dominion this weekend, but Indiana is going to host a very big basketball recruit, number one point guard in America, Talon Kinney, expected to visit Indiana. Listen, we've talked about Talon Kinney. He's originally from the state of Kentucky. I saw him at Adidas about a month ago. Really like that kid's game. Okay. He's about 6 foot. He's listed at 6'1". I think by now he's closer to probably like 6'3", 6'4". Super athletic, gets to his spots. Love the way that he plays. And really, I think he's kind of like wiry strong. I think he's getting much stronger. Plays for Overtime Elite. And he is a player that kind of did a lot of visits early, although this Indiana visit will obviously be here in the fall for a football game. Visited Purdue over the summer, visited Louisville over the summer, visited Kentucky over the summer. My guess would be that right now he's Louisville's to get and Louisville's to beat. Louisville is going to have a point guard opening with Mikel Brown Jr. In the coming year. Mikel Brown Jr. is going to be a one and done type talent for Louisville. And so they're going to need a point guard. This kid's from Kentucky. He's an Adidas kid. I would assume that Talon Kinney ends up at Louisville. But listen, Indiana is an Adidas school. He's kind of from that geographic footprint of the country, and you just never know. Indiana, by the way, has a lot of veteran, older guys as well, so they may need him as well. Let's keep it going. Kind of a busy weekend for North Carolina. So North Carolina, obviously the Tar Heels, Hubert Davis, pseudo make or break year. To Hubert Davis's credit, though, he's recruited pretty well in the high school ranks. Caleb Wilson this past year, I know it didn't work out with Ian Jackson, but landed him. 2 big visitors on campus this weekend. The first, Deron Rippey Jr. Okay, so Deron Rippey Jr., 6-foot guard out of the New York City area. First of all, Carolina has recruited New York City very well. Again, Ian Jackson, Elliot Cadeau didn't work out, but doesn't mean that they haven't been able to close on guys in that area. But 6-foot guard, gets to his spots, really athletic. I really enjoyed watching him play at that Adidas event that I mentioned a few weeks ago and thought he was actually phenomenal. He's a little bit undersized, but gets to his spots, finishes at the rim, very good 3-point shooter. And so I'm curious to see what this means for his recruitment. Now, I don't want to oversell this, and I'll tell you why. It's because Deron Rippey Jr. has, how about this, 8 different official visits set up. Last time I checked, I don't know if I have all of them. Let me see if I have all of them down off the top of my head here. But Deron Rippey Jr. is going to visit. Let's see if I have them all. I don't have all of them, but let me put it this way. Pretty much everybody. Everybody from the Blue Bloods like Kentucky and Carolina this weekend. Not Kentucky this weekend. Just visited Miami. He's supposed to visit Syracuse, Tennessee, Kansas, NC State. So he's got a lot of visits on his docket. Now, it's always worth noting, just because you have visits scheduled doesn't mean you make all of them. But I believe at last count, he has 8 official visits. Don't know if he'll get to all of them, but he is on campus at Carolina this weekend. We'll see what happens at Carolina. Obviously, a very veteran, transfer-heavy team this year, but Hubert Davis is always going to recruit 5 stars. We'll see what happens there. Also, by the way, Tony Bryant, 6'10" center/forward out of Florida, is going to be visiting Carolina as well. He's won not a ton on his recruitment. He's supposed to visit Missouri next week, NC State maybe at some point down the road. Just bring it up because you get him on campus, that means you're in the mix. 6'10" center, whatever you think about Hubert, listen, Hubert Davis, his best teams, when they have that true 5-man, he's been pretty good. Was good with Armando Bacot 2 years ago. They won the ACC. Kind of think they're going to be pretty good with Henry Visar this year. Visar would have 1 year of eligibility after this year, but you just never know. You don't know how it's going to shake out. So Tony Bryant joining Deron Rippey Jr. on campus this weekend at Carolina. And I'll tell you, it's full speed ahead with Carolina. They certainly have plenty of money. As I said a minute ago, they're trying to push to get into the SEC or Big Ten at some point. So it's full speed ahead with both of those programs, football and basketball. Really quickly, I think this is the first time we've got an NC State appearance on one of these Friday afternoon recruiting clips here. That is because NC State is hosting a fast-rising senior named Cole Kloer, 6'7" forward, originally from North Carolina, who is now playing high school basketball in the state of Florida. So Cole Kloer, listen, I'll just be transparent. You know how I know somebody's kind of a guy that, regardless of ranking, is a good player? Who is recruiting him? And this summer, there were 3 programs that prioritized the crap out of this kid: UConn, Alabama, and Florida. If Dan Hurley, Todd Golden, and Nate Oates want you, it means you can play. 6'7", can put the ball on the floor, can step out, can hit threes. Well, he's visiting North Carolina State this weekend. And the one thing I'll say, we know Will Wade takes a backseat to no one in recruiting, okay? And so I think the other variable here, Cole Kloer, as I said, grew up in North Carolina. He actually grew up an NC State fan. So they got the hometown push. They got the hometown this. They got the hometown that. And I'll be curious to see if they can make an impression. Now, Cole Kloer's recruitment has picked up over the last couple of weeks. He will visit Carolina, also visit Kentucky and Arkansas. So when John Calipari wants you and Mark Pope with that big NIL war chest wants you, you know that you can play. Also expected to visit UConn 2 weeks from now. And I'll just tell you this really quick, is that, you know, when UConn wants you as bad as they do, a couple things. One, you can play, but 2, you know, UConn generally, let me put it this way. UConn really focuses and locks in on not very many guys during a recruiting cycle. When they're locked in on you, they normally get you. Braylon Mullins last year, Steph Castle previous year, et cetera. We'll see what happens. I would still say UConn's the favorite there. School that, you know, player that I thought UConn might be a favorite for earlier that I definitely don't think so, Dylan Mingo. Very interesting prospect, 6'5", from the state of New York. Top 10 prospect, was the MBPA Top 100 Camp MVP, 6'5", wiry guard, kind of that perfect UConn type guard. They have Silas Demery this year. They had Tristan Newton. And I thought early in the recruitment that Dylan Mingo might be, you know, a UConn lead. I just bring it up to solely say he is visiting Miami this weekend, and his recruitment has certainly taken on a couple interesting twists. One, with Miami, I think it's worth noting, credit Jay Lucas. Jay Lucas, as a recruiter, he's now the head coach at Miami, comes from Duke. He takes a backseat to no one in recruiting, okay? And so to me, that's important. They had Duron Rippey Jr. on campus earlier this week. Now they get Dylan Mingo. Dylan Mingo also, by the way, visited Washington a few weeks ago. I don't know where Washington is in the pecking order. This one's wide open. You know, the kid's from New York. Like I said, one of his former high school teammates, Jacob Ross and Jaden Ross, play at UConn. But to me, I think it's wide open. I don't even know where to speculate, but Miami does have this kid on campus. We'll see if they can close him. Finally, let's stay in the ACC, because I'll say this, you know, the new blood of coaching, I think, is going to lead to better play on the court. Will Wade's recruiting at a high level, Jay Lucas at Miami. This one is intriguing. Cameron Williams, top 15 prospect in America. I think he'll be a top 5 prospect before this class is all said and done. Cameron Williams, 6'11" center who plays like he's 6'7". I don't want to do the KD comparison, but, you know, 6'7" dude that can shoot, that can put the ball on the floor, whatever. I think he's one of the best players in high school basketball. He's visiting, we mentioned the ACC, SMU this weekend. I know SMU, it feels like, why would SMU even get a visit? Why would he be in the mix? He's from Arizona. He played for Andy Enfield, coached at USC. You know, who was an assistant at USC? Evan Mobley's dad, Eric Mobley. He's a little bit of a big man whisperer. I could see SMU making a move on this kid. Still think he's Arizona or Duke's to get.